Haste was developed and published by the independent Stockholm-based Landfall Games. The team previously worked on Totally Accurate Battlegrounds, Content Warning, and since this game, Peak. In this game, you go up and you go down, and sometimes collect a currency called sparks. Descending allows you to gain speed. Take that momentum into slopes that match your angle of descent and carry the speed through the level. If you had an Apple device 14 years ago, you might remember the game Tiny Wings, where you essentially did the same thing. This is that, plus some depth, characters, and a stylized 3D world. The main story features a series of stages called shards that progressively become more difficult. Each level in a shard is randomly generated in a roguelike style, though all culminating in a boss fight at the end. Each shard has branching paths, allowing you options like a more difficult stage that gives rewards at the end, or going to a campfire to heal. There are upgrades you can buy that persist throughout the game, though I don't remember upgrading much as you don't get a lot of sparks and the cosmetics interested me more. Levels are tamed to begin with, allowing you to figure out what the game wants from you. This is where you learn about landing scores and how to gain speed and stay alive. You'll also be met with the game's soundtrack, which I think does an incredible job of matching the gameplay, especially considering each different biome gets 3 unique soundtracks that better theme their environment. The soundtrack is courtesy of 2 people whose names I can't and won't attempt to pronounce. I really like the soundtrack, and I don't think you'd be a psycho for listening to it outside of the game. The song in the intro to this video is Quicksand Part 3. Like Angerfoot, this game also features unique soundtracks for each boss fight, which gives them all their own unique atmosphere. The music will distort as the collapse catches up with you, motivating you to hurry up. This sides with a bunch of other great sound design choices in the game that truly make the world feel alive. Between shards you navigate the hub world. Here you can interact with a few of the game's NPCs in order to buy upgrades, change your outfit, see your unlock progression, or just chat. I love the way the dialogue is stylized, though not having touched the game for a while, none of the characters' personalities have really stuck with me. Once you've completed the game, you'll be met with the Endless mode, where you can collect items and try to go as far as you can before the collapsing world catches up to you. Unlike Tiny Wings, there aren't a lot of tall, steep hills you can fall into, meaning there are very few times you can gain ridiculous speed, but the few times you can't feel great. There's also the roguelite system in the game where you spend sparks you collected in levels on different items that affect the run. I originally wrote this script complaining about how nothing was explained and I had to visit the Discord server to ask what items I should pick, but the game has now been updated with helpful tooltips. Upgrades purchased in the hub world can also now be reset due to player feedback. Landfall have added loads of new features since the game's release, including multiplayer mode and some more difficult shards to tackle after the main story's finished. This isn't something I'd normally include in a review, but since the game has been out for so long, you might want to know what's been added. In the hub world, you can also buy and change between abilities. These range from cool hoverboard to useful maneuvering tools that can save you from a bad landing. I really wanted to stick with the hoverboard and found out the hard way this is objectively making the game harder for yourself. It is fun though. The newest endgame content known as Disaster Mode features a bunch of modifiers to make the game more difficult, such as taking damage on landings that aren't perfect, fire flower looking things that cover the ground, and a shockwave that travels along the ground causing damage on contact. I like the idea of this, but I noticed all the effects seem to spawn based on where the camera's looking, so you'll constantly find yourself moving the camera from left to right to left to manipulate spawn locations. This feels a bit tedious, and I'd like to see what the game mode would be like if the spawns are random. There's also an endless mode if you just like to challenge yourself and see how far you can get while the collapsing world behind you gets faster and faster. Now I'll briefly cover the boss fights. The jumper boss fight is a really interesting use of what you've learned so far in the shards, but introducing more of the sideways movement. Avoid attacks from a big enemy, then dive in to deal damage. The convoy boss expands on this by giving the boss lots of exterior attacks to dodge, and making the interior of the boss a more technical movement challenge. The snake boss fight sounds really cool. Ride the snake's back and gain speed until you can catch up to its head and do damage. However, after you get thrown up into the sky for the 18th time, you'll realise this boss fight could have been executed in a similar way to the convoy and still been its own unique challenge. The final boss is also great in concept and will take a few tries to get good at, though my major issue here is that you'll often need vertical momentum to reach higher platforms and deal damage. This seems easy, but the boss fight is on a very strict timer. If you don't have abilities that launch you upwards, you'd best hope you have enough time to path round and make some higher jumps. Try this on Disaster 4, and now you're taking damage on non-perfect landings and dodging those same environmental hazards. Obviously Disaster mode is an exception, but I think even in the base game this boss fight is a bit cruel unless you're running the right ability. This game runs exceptionally well even on its highest graphics settings, and I think it'd be great for a Steam Deck or other gaming mobile device. In summary, I really think this game is worth your time. The core gameplay loop here is insanely satisfying and very few recent games have given me the same rush that this game does. There's also a demo if you'd like to try it. Haste is now available on PC, Mac, and Linux.